everybody, welcome back to Day-to-Day Chess. This is Sabina and I hope you're ready to season up your Sunday with an endgame or study explained. This is the theme that I started last week and I hope you enjoyed. I wanted to break the ordinary of just analyzing classical games and just, season up your Sundays with something really cool and something that you can learn as much from as you learn from the game analyzed. Okay, so last week we had a very beautiful King Pawn endgame by Dvoretsky, and today we will be looking at Rook endgames, at two very important ones that I think we have to be familiar with because they can happen in our games. First, we'll be looking, basically reviewing Lasker's idea, and following that, we'll be looking at an extension of Lasker's idea, which was invented by Paul Keres. Let's start up and you'll see what I'm talking about. Here is Lasker's position, which he invented in 1890. 18, not 19. So here, what do we see? We see that white has the pawn on the 7th rank about to promote, but it's blocked by its own king. And black also has his pawn on the 2nd rank about to promote, but it's stopped by white's rook. So we are going to have some tricks in this position, because anytime you move the king away, for example, if we would play king d8 here thinking, ooh, we are going to promote c8 next move, well, you're not, because I'll give you rook d2 check and you have no place to hide in this position. You don't want to go with the king too far away from your pawn, because the further you go, the easiest it will be for black to play king b7, then rook to c2, win your pawn, and the game would end in a draw. So the king could not go that far, and for example, after king d8, if after check, if white would play rook d7, saying, "Ooh, I cover my king with the rook, and now I'm going to be able to win." Well, yes, you would be able to win if this pawn would not be there, but now we are at more advanced endgames, and there is an extra pawn for black as well. It's not the Lustena's position. Is not the type of position where you just cover your king and then you can promote. That would be too easy. Now there is this extra pawn, so black can simply trade the rooks, promote to a queen, you would promote to a queen, and obviously there's no way for white to win this position. So going back to the starting position, we realize that it is not as easy for white to win this. If you're not familiar with this position, make sure you pause the video and try to solve it on your own. If you are, just go along with me with the video and then make sure you check out the following position as well, the extension invented by Keres. Okay, so let's see. What else can we do here with white? Well, giving checks won't really help much, because black could simply play king a7 and you'll definitely never get out from there. So let's try to exit on the other side of the board. King b8, threatening to queen. Black has to give this check. King a8, now you're threatening to queen again. I have to come back to stop the push. And let's see. In this position, given that both pawns are attacked and defended by the rook only, normally we would want to make this move. Rook takes h2. And everything would be great if black would have to take back, because of course we would promote and win queen versus rook. But there's a problem. When we move with the rook, this pawn remains unprotected and black would simply take, and of course the game would end in a draw. So we have to find another way for white to win this position. And here comes the beautiful idea that Lasker invented, and that idea is rook h6 check. In case you don't know where you're going, in case you go to b5, you are closing up rook b2 check. So now I can play king b7. You can't check me anymore, and I'm threatening to promote, and there's no way for black to stop this promotion. You can't do anything about your pawn because my rook is controlling the promotion square, so here white would simply be winning. That's why after rook h6 check, black has to go king a5. And now we continue trying to threaten to push the pawn. We don't want to go back with the rook in h7, of course. Rook takes c7 could happen. So that's why we have to defend our pawn with the king, but also to help it promote to c8 queen. Check is black's only move, king a7, rook c2, and now, as you notice, as previously, the kings are in opposition, so white is in position to give check, forcing black's king to go king a4. Of course, on the b file, anytime you go, I have king b7 and going for the queen. So here I still go king b7, threatening, rook b2, king a6, always going for this important opposition, which will help me and allow me to give you rook h4 check. Rook c2, check. King a3, king b6. Now it's true, white does not threaten c8 queen, but he might be threatening something like rook to h8 and then think of playing king b7 and promote. Well, the problem is not that he's threatening really that, because maybe then you could just come back and get the position from before, and when I play rook h8, when I promote, you would just take, right? And then you would promote. So, but the problem in this position is that black is in Zugzwang. That is the main problem. He cannot move the rook away from the c file because I would promote. He cannot move with the rook away from the second file because I take the pawn in h2. He cannot move the king on the b file because I go king b7 and promote. And he cannot play king a2 because now, let's see, the king and the rook are on the second rank. So what can we do? This very beautiful rook takes h2. So now you're pinned. You cannot take my pawn. You have to take my rook. And now I'm going to promote. This is the trick of the position. So after king b6, black kind of has to give this check, but we are advancing once again. And when you go back to stop my pawn from promoting, I'm giving you this check, this time forcing you to get on the second rank, either a2 or b2. And now you are on the second rank. You are pinned. I can actually take this pawn and not fear you capturing in c7. You would take back. Now I'm promoting to a queen, and queen versus rook, we should be winning. So this was Lasker's beautiful endgame position, endgame study. And upon that, we have Paul Keres' position, which he invented in 1947. And here is this position. What's the difference between this one and Lasker's position? Well, the difference is that there are two files this time between the king, the pawn, the king and the pawn from the black's king. And another difference is that this rook, black's rook, is not staying on the second rank from the lateral to defend the pawn. It's staying in front of the pawn, which normally is not the best place for the rook. So now, of course, if white would just think about getting out with the king f8, or king d8, we have something similar as in Lasker's position. Rook to f1 check, you would go, let's say, king g8, I would be giving you one more check, making you go as far away of this pawn as possible, and now I would play rook e1, attacking your pawn. If you take mine, I take yours. If you don't take mine, I'll still take yours and then promote, so you might as well just make this trade and make a draw. What if we go on the other side, king to d8? Well, if we go on d8, there will be a rook to d1 check, king c8. We will be giving one more check. You have to go king b8, and now you are far away from the pawn that you can't defend it. So now I can afford to play rook e1 and again making those trades. So going back to the starting position, we realize that this idea of getting the king out from in front of the pawn is not as simple as it might seem. So what do we do? Because we're also far from getting, in front of this king to give those checks. So what do we do? And Keres kind of combined the ideas. He combined Lucena's position with Lasker's position. It's more from Lasker's position, but it has a little bit of Lucena as well. Well, what he wants to do is get this rook from here, from behind the pawn, to the lateral side, because if you would get it, let's say, from a7 to d2, that would be amazing, because I'm keeping your pawn, you're not going to promote, and I'm going to be able to cover my king to get out to d8 and then promote myself. So this would be white's idea to try to win this position. But how do we make it happen? And please pause the video and try to find it yourself. If you want to see the explanation, here it comes. Keres found out this gorgeous idea, rook a3, threatening rook h3 with check and rook h2. So once I get on the second rank, it's going to be kind of a really good Lucena's position. So what do we do here with black? Of course, we don't want to allow rook h3, so we go king h4. Now, the king might still have the opportunity and the thought of going back to h5 if you just move the rook randomly, because technically you have to move the rook. Getting out with the king won't really work. If you go king f7, simply rook f1 check, then where do you go next? g6 to try to have that check and bring you back to the second rank? Okay, I give you one more check. You have to go to h6. Now you're too far away from the pawn and your rook doesn't even protect that pawn. So I can just play rook to e1, attacking your pawn, and you have a choice. You're either going to defend it or you're going to take my pawn. I think the best would be to take the pawn and go for the draw. But we don't want to draw here with white. So we can't get with the king out. This is not sufficient. In the other position, everything was happening with the tempo. The king remained really close to the pawn. It was just one file away. Here, they're 2 files away, so we cannot afford to get the king out. So then what do we do? And Keres, again, very beautiful idea he came up with, and that was rook a5. The idea is to keep your king, black's king, cut so that you cannot go back towards, stopping me from getting with my king out. But also I'm giving you the move. The fact that you have the rook in a1 in front of the pawn doesn't really help black very much, because wherever you go, you're going to lose that pawn, and mine is protected, so there's nothing to worry about. So you have to move the king. And where do you go? I mean, you want to stay as close as possible. You don't want to go towards the second rank, because we know what happened in Lasker's position. So, for example, if you go king g4, it seems quite natural. Now it's time for white to get with the king out, because I've brought your king on the g file. So I get out king f7, threatening the queen. You give me check. I come king g6. I'm threatening queen again. You promoting won't help. I'll just take, and then I'll promote to a queen, and queen versus rook. We already know it's winning. Rook e1, it's black's chance, only chance. Now the kings are in opposition, so what do? It's time to give the check. Of course, black cannot come king f3. We already know what happens when the king stays on the file close to the pawn. Simply king to f7, followed up by queen. So black goes king h3, as far as possible from the file of the pawn, so that white has some trouble defending the pawn and also coming and pushing you back. But it's quite easy now for white. King f6. Again, we're defending the pawn, threatening to take yours. You can't promote because I take, and queen. Rook f1 check. King g5. Rook g1 check. King h5. This is the idea. Rook e1. Now I put you as far away from the pawn. So what do you do? How are you going to defend your pawn? Now, luckily, the king has come far enough that we can give the check. The king has to go on the second rank, and now we take in a2. So we solved the first part of the position. We won black's pawn. Now how do we finish winning this position, because it's not as clear? King f3. We have to defend the pawn. Rook e6. This is a very good move for black, keeping white's king from approaching to defend the pawn and enter in Lucena's position, which is super easy to win. King comes, threatening king f5, of course king e4 here, and here only there are 2 moves that win. But don't you even think of playing rook d7, because after king e5 you are in Zugzwang. If you move your king, I'm coming king f6, and if you move your rook, I'm coming king d6, and you lose the pawn. So rook b7 or rook c7 would be winning here. After king e5, now we play rook d7. Black is the one who is in Zugzwang. You have to move the king. Now rook to d1. I'm threatening check from behind. Check. Rook f7, and After king e3, I'm attacking the rook and winning. I really hope you enjoyed these studies. Stay tuned for more games and studies tomorrow and the next week. Bye!